Hey, welcome everyone to introducing the podcast. Let me know you can hear me clearly. The lights on my screen say you can, but I want to make sure that you can hear me. So, welcome everybody to another edition of introducing the podcast. This is a space where we connect personal growth with spiritual truths so we can align with our most authentic selves, okay? I am your host, Smart Video Girl, and tonight we are going to dive into the ninth law of the 12 Universal Law series. And we've been talking about those laws. So if you already know, if you're new here, welcome. If you're not, you know what time it is. Let's see if we can recall the previous 8 laws of the universe. So we're doing a series on universal laws. All right. So I want to thank you so much for being here today. Put them in the put them in the chat. Thank you all for being here. So I did something new. I posted this on Facebook too because I have people there too. So shout out to my Facebook family. Shout out to the coach. Shout out to Coach. I see you. I appreciate you guys for being here. It has been a very interesting journey. So trust and believe me, the things that I share here, I am personally going through them. I'm living it in real life. But I appreciate being here in this space so that we can all connect and grow. So who can tell me what those laws are? Who got them laws for me? Did I put them over here? I don't even know if I did it. I don't even know if I did. I did not do it. That's all right. So who can tell me what are, oh yes, I did. What our previous 12 universal laws are. All right. Who can name them? I see we got a comment. Who got it? All right. That's right. We are bent but never break. We are the masters of our destiny. You better know it. You better know it. And that's what, honestly, that's what understanding these laws has been about. All right. So, Cortland for the win. Cortland for the win. You have the law of oneness, divine oneness, the law of vibration, the law of correspondence, the law of attraction, the law of inspired action, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy, the law of cause and effect, and the law of compensation. Okay. So, as you can see, for the past 2 months, we have been busy, uh, learning these laws and yes, Cortland always comes through. He brings his notebook and pen and paper to class every single week. I appreciate you. And so make sure that you do the same because these laws, like once we get to 12, you kind of see how they really kind of work together. And even in today's episode, you're going to see how the law that we're going to be speaking about today, which is the law of relativity, matters. Okay, so it's a matter of perspective, understanding the law of relativity. And this one is a very powerful law because it reminds us that everything is relative. Okay, everything is relative. Nothing we experience is inherently good or bad, small, big, until we compare it to something else. We don't know one without the other. You can't have rich without poor, you know? So whether you experience it or you were told it, there is that relativity. There's a relationship between the two. So it's important to understand that your challenges, your wins, and all the journeys, all the gains means that it helps you with your perspective. Okay, so I talk about choice a lot, and this is kind of that same type of thing. When you have more choices, when you have more options, more perspectives, more lived experiences, you have more choices, more options of the choices that you can make. So tonight we're going to unpack what this law really means, how it shows up in our daily lives, and how shifting our perspectives can turn struggles into stepping stones. And I am in that process now. And I tell you, it's really interesting how life works. Okay, life works. Life will present opportunities for you to grow. And that is the stage that I'm in right now. I don't want to get too much into my personal life, but I'll talk about it as we go on. So grab your pencils, grab your journals, get comfortable. Let's get into it. But I want to do something real quick. I want to do something I have not done before, which is take a little music break. Okay. And I've done it before, but I'm calling this my musical therapy session because I wanted to do a whole show on musical therapy, but I said I really don't have time to do that. So I'm just going to incorporate every now and again some songs that I appreciate or songs that help me. So today's songs is by Cleo Soul, and I don't know if you know who she is, but bless her heart. And she has a song. It's called "Things Will Get Better." So I'm gonna be right here with you. You can grab your pen, your paper, grab some tea, your coffee, your water, whatever you need to do. We're gonna listen to this song for 1 second, but I'm gonna be right here. So you're gonna see me interact with the song. So I hope you enjoy.
If God called you at 5 a.m., would you get on your knees or get up and leave? If He answered your prayers, would you share His light or choose to hide? Would you stand and rise? It's a part of life. Things will get better.
That I love that song. Thank you guys so much for indulging me in that moment of musical therapy with Things Will Get Better by Cleo. So I love her energy. Okay, I love her energy, and I really wanted to start things off today with that. So we're talking about a matter of perspective, understanding the law of relativity for our series of the universal laws. This is the ninth law in our series, okay? The ninth law in our series. I hope you enjoyed that. That felt so good in my spirit, y'all. All right, so let's define the law. Let's tell it what the law is. The law says, the law of relativity states that everything is neutral until we compare it to something else. Everything is neutral until we compare it to something else. That is important to understand. Things are not inherently good or bad. We make them good or bad. Again, we are not victims of circumstance, okay? We are not victims of circumstance, but we are co-creators with God and co-creators with universe. So therefore things do not happen to us. We are working with in order to create. So even in that sense, whatever we assign to something is what it becomes. So everything is neutral until you compare it to something else. That is the law. All right. And so life's challenges are not inherently good or bad. They simply are. And when we assign them meaning by comparison. So that's what I was saying. So when we understand that, that is where you can see how we can shift things. Gives you the power to shift, because if something is quote unquote bad to you, you now have the ability to shift it. So we talked about this in what law? Let's see, they all kind of go together, but this all running together with me. But vibration, for instance, and I'll talk about this later, how they kind of work together. So again, things are not inherently good or bad until we actually assign meaning to it. So in the case of me, right, where I'm going to the gym and I don't like it, right, it's bad for me right now. It's not inherently bad. I have made it bad. So I have to assign something good to it. I have to learn how to shift my perspective of that. That is part of the process of how we use these laws to work to our benefit. Okay. All right. So um how we are framing our these changes and our emotional response to them is how we can shift this law. So challenges are not punishment, but they're opportunities for us to grow, and we have to see that anytime we have a challenge, we have to learn how to reframe that to see that it is an opportunity for us to continue to grow. And it gives us another reference point. Okay, these reference points become the options, your choices in the future, but you have to be open to seeing them as such. And so there's you have to be careful not to fall into the comparison trap. Okay, because what happens is we start to, of course, when if we're comparing things, if we're looking at two things and we're comparing them, we have to be clear on what we're doing in the comparison. Are we using it? Again, you will see here on the screen at contrast for clarity, right? As again, two vantage points for you can see so that you can make informed choice, or are you comparing for judgment? And a lot of times we compare for judgment, right? There's a hierarchy, good, better, than, who's bigger, who's better, who's smaller, who's taller, who's smarter, who's richer. There's this comparison. And so if there starts to be a comparison, then there starts to be a hierarchy, and then you want to be at one place or another, but you're so it's more so out of judgment as in wanting and needing versus making decisions from a place of clarity and understanding that there are more options in the world. Okay. If that is making any sense to anybody. Okay. Hashtag journal. I love that. Hashtag journal. That means you got your journals out. Okay. Realizing that understanding is key is being able to to Be realistic about the truth of self. Without understanding leads to confusion. Truly understanding is the fulfillment of loving it all. Mm. True understanding is the fulfillment of loving it all. This is true, right? Seeing all of these things as opportunities and experiences to grow, right? Not good or bad, but just opportunity. That is a beautiful way to look at, and that's a shift in perspective. Okay, all right. So we understand now we have the power of perspective. We're working with the power of perspective in with this law, which is awesome because we can see now how we can use these the law of relativity with some of the other laws in our self work. Okay, so we have the law of oneness. So we are connected, but our journeys are uniquely relative to us. Okay, again, we can compare stories, not out of judgment as to my story is better than your story, but I can learn something from your story and you can learn something from my story. There's relativity, there's understanding, there's a relationship in there who say, oh, for clarity. So there's contrast for clarity, that there are differences, that there are people who experience different things and how those experiences are interpreted, right? This is how you can learn from other people. You don't have to touch the fire to get burnt. Okay, you can learn from other people's experiences, but know that your experience is still going to be it's still going to be unique and relative to you. It doesn't make it better than the next person or worse than the next person. You're not a victim because you don't experience what others experience. It is just your journey, and you have to learn what are the things that you can learn from your journey. Okay. But the sharing in it is where the relating happens. We can see that we're connected and we can see how our journeys differ, but how there are options for us to take on this journey, right? And we can see how people take different journeys. All right. All right. The next law that it can work with is the law of vibration. All right. Your perspectives shifts your vibration instantly. Your perspective is what shifts your vibration. So we talked about the law of vibration, and at the time it was talking about, because the law of vibration just states that everything is energy and has a frequency, and but that's just the basic law. So now how do you use the law? How do you work with the law? How do you shift your vibration? You shift your perspective. Okay, your perspective is how you see things as in relation to other things. So, for instance, today I was out and it was cloudy, and I was having a conversation with someone, and they was like, some people will see this cloudy day and say, "Oh wow, it's cloudy. It's not a good day." While others will see that there is water in those clouds, and that water nurtures the earth, and it nurtures us, and it brings us shade and cools us down. So it's all about perspective. So if I see the cloudy day, even a cloudy day, the clouds in the sky, as something to provide for me, it's not a bad day because it's cloudy outside. That's just circumstantial. It has nothing to do with my vibration. My vibration is not dictated by the sky. It's dictated by my perspective of what is in the sky. And if I see everything in the sky as something that is going to be beneficial to me, then it doesn't matter if it's a sunny day, a cloudy day, a rainy day, a windy day. I'm going to see some type of benefit in it. One day is not better than the other. Now, do I have preferences? Yes. Do I like one thing over the other? Yes, but it doesn't make them good or bad. Okay. And so that's the understanding that you should have. So as you can see, some of the comments are down here on the side because I don't want to be interrupting my conversation, my teaching while I'm doing this. All right, so check out the comments. I'm gonna come back to those in a second. So thank you for dropping those down there. All right, and then the last law that this law, the law of of relativity, really works together with is the law of cause and effect. Your chosen perception creates a effect in your life. We talked about that as well. The vibration, the cause and effect, and when you take everything is a vibration. You are the cause, right? You are not the effect. You are the cause. Your perspective is the sauce that makes all of that move. So the law of relativity is your ability to your perspective is using the power of perspective. How do you see things in your life? How are they related? Okay. So that is how those two can really work together. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. I appreciate you guys for being here today. Let me know where you are, where you come, where you watch it from, if you're learning anything, and make sure you have your journals out because we're going to be doing some journal prompts in a few that can help you as you practice this law, because I don't want you to just get this information. I want you to apply this information. But there's gonna be all time. There's gonna be time for that as well. All right. So let's see. Here we go. Acknowledged but not dictated. Yes. So there's an acknowledgement. I'm not saying at all to ignore. This is not an ignore. This is actually very opposite. Okay. Okay, the opposite of this is being very aware. This is being very present, right, to what is happening in your life. So it's not about uh being controlled, right? Acknowledge it but not dictate it. All right, so let's see. There's a quote by my boy Nero. If you don't know Nero, check him out on YouTube. Okay, shout out to Nero. So there are no truths in reality you experience other than what your subconscious mind accepts as true. So the world that you live in, how do you describe it? Describe your world. How you describe your world, it is what is the true for your world. As a quote, I think it's Henry Ford. He said, whether you think it is or not, it is. That's the truth. This is the same type of concept. There are no truths other than the truth that you give it, that your subconscious mind accepts as true. So, whatever you truly deep down believe in your subconscious is what's going to be the truth of your reality. All right. And you make that decision based on what you feed your subconscious. Okay. Your power of your perspective. How are you evaluating situations? What questions are you asking when you are in situations? Okay. How are you reframing? Are you asking yourself, what is this here to teach me? Okay. Because when you can ask, what is this here to teach me? You open up yourself to the possibilities of what an experience can bring. Okay. And of course, the secret sauce in anything is gratitude. Gratitude is always a perspective shifter because gratitude inserts a level of thanks, an appreciation, which is always welcome. I I give thanks even I it's so funny now. It's like it kind of feels like sarcastic, but I am truly grateful for all of the experiences that I have, like even when I'm frustrated with the experience, I take something away from it that I can learn from. So the gratitude helps to shift even just the smallest reframing of a situation. You know, you fall into the mud is tell you make sure you watch where you're going. If you can laugh at, like, it's like, it's like you could learn to see life different when you are when and so, you know, I've talked about on the a lot of times about how as communities of color, sometimes we come from quote unquote disadvantages, right? We have to see these disadvantages, quote unquote, as opportunities. Like, we have more perspective. You have more, you have greater insight. You have great vision. You have been able to overcome and sustain in some of what people would consider poverty conditions, and you live in conditions where most people would just keel over and die. You have perspective. You actually, that's a great strength. That lets you know too, if you were to ever hit hard times, you could survive, where some people would kill themselves, literally, and I mean this, they would die. So there's a strength, and there's a when you see your challenges, when you see your journey, when you see all the hills and mountains that you had to climb and all the valleys you had to dig yourself out of, you start to see those things as builders of strength and character and faith and resilience, versus challenges that held you back, right? Because put you in the ring with somebody who has not gone through those things, and guess what? You're going to come out on top because you've been prepared for this. But if you see them as something of weakness, they're just going to overpower you mentally, not knowing that you did that already. You did that. You lived it, and you're still here to tell about it. The fact that you're still here to tell about it is the power that you need to own. Mm, hallelujah. Hallelujah. All right. Where we going with this? So let's use the law. I said shift your focus. Shift your focus, right? Shift your focus. What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the good or the bad? You're going to shift from what's working, not what you didn't have, right? What worked? What got you out the situation? Not the fact that you was in the situation, but what got you out the situation? What saved you from the situation, right? And then you're going to practice neutral observation. That's removing judgment when you're describing events. So how many of us tell a story from a place of victimhood? Well, they did this to me, and then what had happened was uh all of that. See, what happened to me was, and it was so bad. How you tell your story is important. How you, when you label the events instead of describing them from a place of what it is that you learn from it, then you can, that's how you separate. So you want to become a neutral observer. You want to become like a scientist, and you want to remove the judgment, okay, of it. So even if it felt a certain way, call it what it was, but don't judge it, okay? Because how you feel about something is important, but it's important not to judge how you feel. And then lastly, surround yourself with perspective builders. Surround yourself with people who are going to inspire you to see beyond the circumstance. Get somebody who's going to say, well, maybe did you ever think about it like this, or something to that effect. You need people around you who can see a different perspective, who can share that perspective with you. Because the more perspectives you have, then there's more options, more choices, right? Talked about that. I love choices. I love choices. Choices make me happy. Mm. We always have a choice. And at any given moment, you have a choice. And as long as you remember that you always have a choice, you can always do that. And again, perspective builders, people who can have vision, people who see things differently. I'm somebody personally where I'm able to see perspectives I'm able to see your perspective, I'm able to see everybody's perspective. I've been like that for a long time. At one point, um, I was able to see everybody's perspective so much that I put their perspectives before mine, especially when it came to myself. So that there's a lot where people pleasing came in. But when it comes to like experiences and being able to see different perspectives, learning to love myself, fill my cup first, and then share my perspectives from a place of love has been something that I'm working on. But that's what you need in your life. You need people around you who can see things in multiple ways, not in convincing, but just to say, "Hey, did you look at it like this?" Or maybe you could look at it like that. And it's just, even if it just unlocks a curiosity to say, you know what, I never thought about it like that at all. And a lot of times when you're around the right people, they will help you see stuff like that. They will they will shed light on a situation that you've never thought about. So this is a great way to, you know, this is a community builder. You don't you know that whole, you don't want you don't want yes, a whole bunch of yes men. Right? This is kind of what that is, the opposite of yes men. These are people, you don't want people who are just going to tell you, yeah, you right. Yeah, you right. You want somebody who's going to stretch. You want people who are going to stretch you to see beyond your circumstances in an effort to see you grow. All right. So get you some good perspective builders in your community. All right. Get you some perspective builders. All right. Let's see. I got another quote here from Peter Sage. And so this is just the power of perspective. And Peter Sage is, talk about him. I talk about him. He's very instrumental. I took his self mastery 52-week course in 2023, 2022, something like that. Anyway, like that. It was 52 weeks of self commitment. And it was a great journey. But something that he would talk about a lot is he wrote a book about how he he had to go to jail, and unexpectedly, he he went to prison. He went to maximum prison unexpectedly. Can you imagine not being a criminal? It was more like these are white collar crimes, so it was uh he wasn't a criminal. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't murder anybody. He didn't steal. It was just, law. So a white collar crime. And he had to go to jail. And he didn't think he was going to go to jail. But the reality was he went to jail. And so while in jail, to survive, he had to switch his perspective about being in prison. And so he wrote this quote. It's like two men behind bars. One saw mud while the other saw stars. And I think that's important because it's like, where are you looking? Where are you looking? Are you looking up towards the stars, or are you looking down to the ground? Okay, where's your perspective? What are you relating this experience to? What are you giving it? What name are you giving it? What title are you giving it? What box are you putting it in? What title are you giving it? And because understand, whatever it is that you give, that is it. But you also have the power to shift that. So just know that as well. That's important. That is important. So again, two men behind bars. One saw mud while the other saw stars. Which one do you see? If you were to go to jail, could you see the stars, or would you see the mud? And how do you think that would help you in your journey, in your time behind prison, and behind bars, knowing that you had to be behind bars? How would shifting your perspective, one who saw mud and one who saw stars, how could that shift your experience? How do you think their experiences are? Nobody wants to be in jail. I don't hear anybody saying send me to jail. But I do know that people go to jail and they have different experiences. Mud or stars? Which one do you see? All right. So let's get the journaling. Let's get the journaling. Get out your journals, your notebooks, whatever it is that you are using. to track this. If you are, I appreciate you. If you don't, screenshot it, share it, go back, watch it later, do whatever you want to do. But we're getting ready to get into this power perspective journal prompts. We're talking about the law of relativity, which is the ninth law in this 12 universal law series. All right. So let's go. Let's go. Number one, think of a recent challenge. How would it look different if you saw it as an opportunity rather than a setback? Mm. All right. I'm gonna be transparent because I have not been to the gym since my last session with my trainer, which was like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. I have been on walks, and it has been a challenge for me to get to the gym. Okay. It has been a challenge for me. And part of the challenge is feeling like I'm giving up on myself, right? I've been here before. So I have labeled this feeling of not wanting to do it, of giving up on myself. Uh, that's how I have labeled it, right? Because that's what it has felt like in my subconscious. That's been the reality because I've been here before. You know what I'm saying? This is not new. I've done this before. I've been here before, right? The difference is, the difference is in this part of my journey in my life, I'm showing up different. I'm seeing it and I'm fighting. I'm battling at this challenge. I'm reframing. So it's almost like I'm going back and forth with deposition in court. We're having this conference room meeting with my old self of how we're going to reframe this setback and opportunity. Okay, what are we going to do different? So how can we do this so we're not giving up on ourselves? Okay, how are we doing this? Okay, so that's the power perspective. So I'm showing up for myself in other ways. I'm reaching out. I'm finding my perspective builders. Okay, so it's not going to be a setback once we get on the other side of this. Me giving up on myself is not an option anymore. Do you see how that works? It's not going to be embedded in my subconscious because I'm actively working through it. All right. So, again, think of a recent challenge. How would it look different if you saw it as an opportunity rather than a setback? So, again, the opportunity here is for me to push through the feeling of giving up on myself. And the opportunity in that is that once I do this, it's not an op it's a the options, my options for pushing through and pushing forward and moving forward and not feeling like I'm giving up on myself have now changed. Hallelujah. All right, number 2, recall a moment when you compared your life to someone else's. Oh, I know we can relate to this. How did that affect your energy and self perception? Now I want to take some time with this one. Recall a moment when you compared your life, to someone else's. We live in the age of comparison. We live in the age of internet, social media. Everybody's online. How many followers do you have? How many friends do you have? Who has this? Who has that? What do we have? We're always comparing ourselves, right? And again, on that oneness, right? On that oneness, there's no need to compare, right? Because we all come from the same source. There's differences, and we can examine and we can look at those differences. We can look at them and examine and observe them and appreciate them. But when they start to affect us and how we see ourselves, that's when we start to step into dangerous territory. So we have to recall a moment when we compared ourselves to other, and how did it affect us? So are we comparing for clarity, or are we comparing, what was it, for judgments? They're better than me. I'm better than them. What? No, I am me, and there is only one. That is not a comparison. That is a fact. Okay? That is the truth. There is no judgment, and there is only one me because there's only one you. And as much as I appreciate the uniqueness of me, I appreciate the uniqueness of you. There's clarity in the understanding that you are different and that I am unique. And there's something special about you, just like there's something special about me. There is no need to judge it. Now, I may say, just to boost my self confidence, but I will never put something down intentionally for and say, "Oh, I'm better than that." I'm beyond that today. I'm beyond that today, Tom, because I understand that if I start to because if okay, hear me out, because law of correspondence. If I'm better than somebody, then that means somebody's better than me. No, as within, so without. It's a ripple. So again, perspective. Start to see when we start to see each other as reflections of one another. Then if I'm bad, then you're bad. And if you're bad, then I'm bad. But we're not. We're unique. We're different. We're special. I appreciate you. I see you. Yes. All right. And the last question, journal prompt, reflective moment is, what's one area of your life you can shift from why me to what is this teaching me? Woo! Shift from why me to what is this teaching me? If you have read my book, do the work, keep the faith. There are 4 levels of consciousness. It's 4 levels of consciousness. The 4 levels of consciousness are to me, by me, through me, as me, right? So when you want to shift from the why me, that's the victim mode. You want to shift from why me to what is this teaching me? How can I, how can it, how can this lesson use me? What is it that I can learn from this lesson? What is it that I can get from it? You can see every pebble in the road as just a bump. Every closed door as a blessing, right? Every scrape on the knee as a increase in awareness. What is it? What can it teach you? Even if it's very basic, it is okay. Okay, it can be very basic. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So um, make sure that you are really taking the time to pay attention to how you are judging your experience. That's what this really is. How you are judging your life. How you are labeling the things in your life, how you're using the power perspective to compare your life. Okay? And then you can see why things are because you have labeled it. you know this is really where you put a stamp on solidifying your vibration, solidifying the attraction, all these types of things. This is kind of where you put a label on it. This is where you kind of name it and stand ten toes down with it, right? So what is your perspective? All right. uh I encourage you all to write down some of your current challenges and then list 3 ways that you can count them as blessings. How could it be a blessing? How could you shift a current challenge that you're dealing with? I think that's going to be a very enlightening exercise when you think about it. How can you really shift that and really pay attention to it? All right. So let's recap. Nothing is inherently bad, okay? Nothing is inherently good or bad. It's only different. And the only meaning that it has is the meaning that you give it. So you shape your experience by how you describe it. Okay? How you ingest it, how you interpret it, how you perceive it. Okay? And let's see what else. That's a wrap. That's a wrap for the thing. Let's see what kind of comments we have here. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Patricia said, is the glass half full or half empty? Yes, that is the basics. We've all heard of that, right? And that is the law of relativity. Compared to what? When you say, if you, and that's the other thing, when you ask the question, compared to what? My life sucks. Compared to what? When you say, I've had a hard life, compared to who? Compared to what? Because there are things in my life, I've been through a lot of things in my life. I have learned how to tell my story in a way where I'm not labeling it because it is my story. But I learned how to share my story and not necessarily label the things that I've been through. But it's been practice because you have to be mindful again, that neutral conversation, that neutral, not labeling things as good or bad. And then when you really sit and you ask the question, compared to what, then you can really see, as what are you basing this judgment on? What are you basing this description of an experience on? My life is hard. And so that's why it's important. That's that connectedness, to listen to other people, right? Because I can think that I've had a rough life and it's been um, horrible. Oh my gosh, woe is me. And then I can listen to somebody else and I can say, wow, my story is nothing compared to that, right? And they can listen to my story and be like, oh, my story is nothing compared, but it's all because it's all perspective, it's all relative. Okay. So the question is, in comparison to what? What are you comparing it to? What's your reference point? What's your reference point? Okay. All right. My wisdom comes from the rocks I kick. Well, yeah, you're going to learn like that. That's for sure. You kick rocks, you're going to hurt your foot. All right. You will learn. You better learn. you better you better learn. That's what I'm saying. You better learn, you know. Oh, but that's on you too. So, all right. Let's see. What else? Is that anything else? But no, that's it. That's a wrap. This is going to wrap up episode 9 of the Universal Laws series. This is the law of relativity. Remember that it's all about perspective. So it's a matter of perspective. Your perspective is the paintbrush that is going to color your reality. So the next time you face a challenge or take a step back and ask yourself, compared to what? Oh, it's hot. Compared to what? Like, it's hot here, but there's some places that are hotter. Some places that are compared to what? So learn to be grateful for where you are right now, because there's somebody in the worst. There's somebody on either side of you. There's something, there's something on either side of you, right? There's something on either side of this experience. So to be present and to be grateful for where you are, it's just what it is. So compared to what? All right. If this episode shifted your thinking, share it with your friend who needs a reminder that they are stronger than they think they are. Okay. And join me for next week's law 10, which is the law of polarity. All right. We're getting into it. We only have a few more laws left. So we'll be done. Let's see. One, two, three. Okay. First week of September, we'll be done with these laws. Okay. And then we're going to really start putting them into practice. I'm excited. Woohoo. All right. Until then, I want you to keep doing the work, keep the faith, and keep introducing yourself to the best version of you. I love you guys. See you next week. And don't forget to, if you haven't already done so, buy my book. All right. I love you guys. See you next week. Peace.